Okay, so now that you've gone through the HTML portion of things, which is how you lay out the actual content for a website, now you're going to cover CSS, which is cascading style sheets. And what that covers is how it is that you style the content that you now have on your web page. So right here we have this new folder that's labeled CSS, and inside there's just two files. We've got index.html and then we've got index.css. And so for these, let's go ahead and dive in and get started. So we've got two. If you'll remember from the prior lesson, we've got these two header elements right here. And the first way, so there's three different ways that you can actually style elements inside of CSS. The first one is with what's called inline CSS. And so that's where you can write your CSS code right directly inside of the HTML file and on the element. So if we say style equal double quotes, and then inside of there, this is where you'll put in your CSS properties. So let's say we wanted to change it to red. We would say color, colon, red, semicolon, and let's go ahead and refresh. And then you'll see that this is now turned red. You can also add other properties. So if we do font size, let's make it, like really large. So let's do 400 px. And px just stands for pixels. And you'll save, refresh. All right, I made it really, really big. Bring this back. Change this down to maybe 100. Okay, cool. And one of the things that you'll notice is so this is like the syntax of statements inside of CSS, is you'll have the actual property that you want to modify. So in this case, color, colon, and then you're going to put the value of that property. And then this semicolon right here is what lets the code know that you're done with that statement, and then you can move on to the next one, right? And so you can put as many properties here as you would like to. The next one I'm going to show you is what's called the style tag. So then right under here, you can just put another tag that says style. And then we're going to modify this one, our H2 tag that we have, using this other tag. So to do it in this way, when you're writing CSS, right, because it's with inline, it's simple enough. You're seeing that it's already attached to the element. So it's like, okay, that's how it knows which one to apply the styles to. But when you have something like this, right, if you're writing the code in a different place, how does it know to attach it to this particular element? There's a couple of different ways that you can do that, but we're going to focus on the primary way, which is with class. And we're going to call it custom heading, let's say 2, because we already have one right here. Let's go down here. And so now notice we've put custom heading 2, and you can call it really anything that you want to. The name of it really doesn't matter a whole lot. You just have to make sure that you're consistent with it. So whatever you call it here in this class section, you also have to call it here inside of the style tags. And then when you put it inside of the style tags, or if you were to put it inside of a CSS file, you'll start it with a dot, and then you'll say the name of the class, custom heading 2 space, and then we're going to use curly brackets. And so this is declaring our class that we have for CSS. And then inside of here, you can put all of the same properties for CSS that you normally would, and they will apply to that. So let's make this one, maybe say color, colon, blue, semicolon. And let's refresh. This is now changed to blue, and then let's change the font size of it. So we'll do font. Actually, let's make this one bold. So we'll change the size of it, font size, and let's do 150 px. But we'll also make this one bold. So let's refresh so you can see these changes. Cool. And then if we do font weight bold, and then I think headers are already bolded by default. So, but that's how you would apply it to any kind of a class. Okay. So these are the two. So I've already shown you 2 out of like really the 3 ways that you'll normally apply. So you've got your style tag here that you can use. You've got inline right here, and then for this P, I'll show you the third way. So we'll say, let's do that. Class, so we're gonna add a class again, right? Class custom paragraph. If you pay attention up here to the top of our HTML file, you'll notice on line 7, we have this link rel, so this is again from the HTML module. Remember we talked about attributes inside of elements. So this rel stands for relationship. And inside of here, it's got equals, double quotes, and then it takes style sheet. So that's just letting the HTML file know that this is a CSS file. And then href link, which is similar to the link that we would use right for the A tag. And it says index.css. And so this right here is letting it know, hey, we have another file that's sitting somewhere. I want you to load in that file and treat it like a style sheet, like a CSS file, so that I know to apply those CSS styles to this HTML page. So if we go into here, which is our index.css, and the name of our paragraph was custom paragraph, and we'll do color green, semicolon. Let's refresh, boom. Now let's try, font size, and we'll make it bold. There you go, right? So those are the three primary ways that you will, again, do CSS code in this way. Now, the other thing to remember with this is, because there's three different ways that you can apply CSS code to elements, right? You can technically apply multiple different variations of CSS using all the three different methods to the exact same element. So there's a hierarchy of, right, because what if you accidentally like override, or let's say you use the exact same element, let's say on one thing you try to make a thing, your text blue, but then on another one you try to make it like red, for instance, right? Well, so built into CSS is they have a hierarchy of acceptance. So for instance, you'll see for our custom paragraph right here that we just did, right? Color was green, font size 100 pixels, the font weight is bold. Let's try overwriting it. So we'll go here and we'll add .custom paragraph, and instead of green, so we'll remove some of these and then we'll make it purple. Boom. So even though this says, hey, this is supposed to be green, because we've added this other property right here, right on custom paragraph with the exact same class that says purple, this is overwriting what we have right here. And so the order that your files would go in is your CSS files that you have right here. These are the kind of last place, the third most important, you could say. Then after that, the second most important are these, whatever you put inside of the style tags. And then the first most important will be whatever you put directly on the element itself. And so that is just important, and it's something to keep in mind, because sometimes when you expect something to change because you updated the CSS code or make it look a certain way, it's not going to, because, right, that order, so you got to make sure that you're checking that. And another thing that's helpful for you to know is, if you go here, so I'm using Google Chrome, if you right click and you click on expect, and we open this up, so this is Chrome's built-in kind of developer inspector console, and what this does is it gives you a whole suite of tools that are useful for developers. So you remember from the last module, right, we went on to, I think it was Netflix's website, and we modified some stuff. So you'll notice here on the Elements tab, it's showing us, right, custom paragraph and custom paragraph. And you can even see here, right, because it shows us the source. This is on index.css, which is the file it's loading it from. This custom paragraph one is coming from index.html, and then it's got this scratched out because it's showing you this is overwriting it. And you can modify things inside of here. So again, right, if we do color, like we say brown, right now our text will be brown, and you can get rid of that if you so choose. So yeah, you can play around with things inside of the inspector, but this is very helpful, and this is what developers use in order to be able to take a look at what's actually going on under the hood. All right, so now let's close this out. Okay, cool. So a couple of different things that'll be helpful for CSS. Okay, so what are some of the properties that you will tend to use more than others, right? Like, one of the things that's really important for you to be able to know about when it comes to making layouts inside of CSS is you've got to know about padding and you've got to know about margin. So both of these are used in order to be able to control how your element takes up space on a page, how much space it's going to take up, right? And so in order to demonstrate this, let's go ahead and create some new things. So we're going to go h1, create a basic h1 tag. Okay. And we'll say new, we'll call this one new heading, padding, and margin. All right, let's refresh this. Cool, so we got padding, margin down here at the bottom. So every element, and I can show you this in the inspector, has, you know, size, width. Let's click on it. Look, so if you look right here, you'll notice you've got these 950 by 37, right? So this is the actual width and the height of the component that's laid out for you right here in pixels. And you can edit these properties again manually. After the actual width and height of your element, you then have a box around it that's going to represent the padding. You've got the border, and then you've got the margin, which is the very outside of the actual element itself. So you can mess with all of these properties in order to be able to modify how your element shows up on the page. So let's do inside of here. Actually, we'll open up this. So we're going to open up our CSS down here. We called it new. We'll do class. So we called it new heading. Cool. And then inside of new heading, let's do background color And we're gonna make our background color red. Refresh. And the reason I'm gonna make the background color red is so that you can see the entire actual width and the height of the element, because normally the background will just be like transparent or white. And so if you just add a color to it, you'll be able to see it. Cool, so we've got it down here. So now let's add a padding. Oops, not all of that. Let's add a padding of 100 pixels. Right, so we've got a ton more space now on the element with this 100 pixels of padding than we did before. And this is applying 100 pixels on all of the sides, but you can specify it more granularly, either all right here, comma separated, or as individual elements. So if we say padding left, 100 pixels, right? Now you get all the space on this side. We can say, or sorry, that's on top. If you do padding left, 100 pixels, refresh. Now we've got padding on the left-hand side. If you do padding bottom, right, so on and so forth. Back this out. Great. Now, outside of padding, you also have the border. So we're going to apply a border property. We're going to say what the size of our border we want to be, 1 pixel. We want it to be solid. And then the last value will be color for, so let's say black. So now if we refresh, it's showing up, but it's a little bit hard to see, so we'll increase the width. Let me get 10 pixels. There you go. So now we have the border that's showing up outside of our padding. And then we're also going to apply a margin. And the margin is going to be the space, again, that's the very last frontier of your element. So if we do margin top, 100 pixel. And margin has all of the same kind of properties that padding is going to have. So you could do margin top, margin bottom, right, margin left, margin right. So let's do margin top. And you'll notice there's all this additional space that was created. It's not colored, but if you look, we do this and then click here. You can hover over the elements and you'll see we're hovering over margin, and then you can see on the top, it's got this value of 100 because we applied 100 pixels of margin to the top, and then it's even highlighting it inside of the browser here for you to be able to see. So that's how padding and margin are going to work for you to be able to work with the spacing of your element that you have. Another really important thing that's good to know when it comes to CSS is, okay, how do I actually define layouts for my application that I have, right? So most modern websites that you'll see today, they normally run on some kind of CSS framework, whether it's Tailwind, Bootstrap. There's a bunch of them that are out there that are very, very popular. But CSS also has a bunch of them that are actually built into it that you can use. And so I'll show you an example of how to work with layouts and items that you have in here. One of the most popular ones that's even used by a lot of the CSS frameworks is just using Flexbox. So if we go, we're going to create a div element again. And let's create a tag for this. We're going to go H2, and we're going to say Flexbox. Let's go class equals flex container. Or sorry, flex. This doesn't actually need a class. We want the div. We want to create a div under it, and that's going to have a class. Here we go, div. Perfect. All right, so we have a class here that's applied to our div element. We're going to call this flex container, and then inside of the flex container, we have all of these different items. Go ahead and refresh. All right, flexbox, items 1, 2, then items 3. So let's go ahead and create the classes for this. So we'll go flex container. The way you specify that something uses flex is you just say display : flex. And then we're going to say flex direction. And we're going to apply it to row. All right, let's go ahead and refresh. Right, and so now you'll notice all of these items, they went from kind of stacked down on one another, which is that's the column layout, to now they're all going in a row. And again, we're going to highlight the background of this, background color of blue, just to make it easier to be able to spot. Let's do something lighter, like light blue maybe. Much better. Alrighty. So now, hey, it's cool. Okay, I got them from going in that column direction that they were going in before to being able to go in a row, but what if I want them spaced out more? So there's these other properties. We have justify center and some other ones. So if we apply justify center, you'll see that it's moved all of the items to the center. And you can also do space between. Right now, they're all going to take up the entire width of the actual container that we have and put space in between them, hence the name. You can do space around. So now they're going to be evenly spaced with all of the space around them. And there's also this property, space evenly, which I haven't used this one a whole lot. Yeah, okay, I guess, yeah, literally just make sure that the space between all of them is evenly spread out. And then if we change this flex direction from row now back to column, Get rid of the extra semicolon. Boom. Right, you'll see them stack as a column now. And then if we, so one of the primary main advantages of using Flex containers is that as the size of your application changes, Flex, hence the name, right, it was made to be able to be flexible with your application that you're using. And so when you have websites that you're creating that are going to be like mobile responsive for when people will visit your website from their phone that they have and you want it to look really, really nice, Flex can come in handy for that. And then when you have resizable layouts, so sometimes you want something to look one way, maybe on a tablet, or maybe if somebody has like an ultra wide monitor, right, you might want to change the layout of your website. A lot of the CSS tools that you'll have and things like Flexbox will help you be able to do that. So let me see. So those are kind of the essential basics of CSS. There's a ton of properties that you can use. A really good website for this is MDN Web Docs. If you go to MDN Web Docs and look up CSS, they'll give you a bunch of different references for the different things that you're able to actually change, different CSS selectors. You can also look up Web3 schools. And if you go here, CSS, and then, yeah, you'll get the HTML section, you get the CSS section, right? And again, all of these different sections, what they'll do is they'll show you a lot of the things that you're able to do and change. So take this, play around with it, see what you're able to do, and then in the next one, we're going to move on to some JavaScript.